Hey everybody. So everything that Hadley just said, I feel seen as an academic. So as I'm not writing my dissertation right now, thanks so much. I appreciate that. So last year was my first year at Monktoberfest, and I left super excited, inspired and happy and motivated. And over the last year, I've become increasingly more frustrated, disappointed, and enraged. Has nothing to do with James. Has nothing to do with James. Has nothing to do with James this time. But I left filled with hope, believing in myself, just really thinking I could do it. And the last year has made sure I realized I was wholly unable. However, there is a locus for my frustration. Listen, I'll be honest, when I agreed to do this, I came here to fight, right? I was like, I have earrings that come out really easily. I have Vaseline in my bag. For those of you who don't understand that, Google's your friend, right? But I've never been in a physical fight in my life. Yes? This way? I'm usually really loud, so this isn't a problem. Is this better? Yeah, so I've never been in a physical fight in my life. I know. Seems odd, right? I talk girl game, but I literally have never been in a fight in my life. And the fear of incarceration kind of made me manage my expectations. So Joe Emison, I know you're not here, but let's just meet up. I just want to talk. Just want to talk. Bring your Rainbow Bright fitted sheet, and we'll talk, okay? But back to really what I'm here for. It's, like you said, I'm a PhD candidate, spent about 12 years working in the in and along the Department of Defense, spent some time in some war zones, did some kind of fun, cool stuff, and then decided, I want to go back to school and be poor. This is great, right? It's wonderful. So I have a question for y'all. After high school, how many of you went and got educated, whether it be trade school, like college, whatever? How many of you went and got some form of formal education? So you got an education, right? You kind of got screwed, right? You really did. And I say this as somebody who literally just turned in packets to become a tenure track position. Bless you. I just did that. I went through that hell, But you got screwed because what you should have been doing is building knowledge, right? So just getting an education does nothing for you. You've got to gain knowledge over time. And I think some of you are kind of nodding, and some of you are like, oh, what the hell is she talking about? What is she going to do for the rest of her life if she wants to be a professor? This is not going to work out well. It probably won't, but, I got some options, right? So there's a difference. You get information. In high school, they're giving you information. They're like, what year did this happen? What year did that happen? My students, I've been very fortunate. I've had 178 Tufts undergraduate students as both a teaching assistant and instructor of record. They are awesome, right? I love my miscreants. But they're so focused on information. Give me the information, give me the information. I want them to be able to think critically, to read critically, and just leave in pain, because critical thinking and critical analysis is painful. But for them, they're just like, but just tell me what I need to know, right? Just tell me what I need to know. They want the information. Information is easy because it's the words of a chapter. It's the chapters of a book. For y'all, some of y'all, I don't do tech stuff, but it's the variables of the loop and then the loops of the function. You know what I mean? It's I guess. I guess, does that make sense, kind of? Because it still doesn't to me. Don't tell Matthew. We'll get to him in a minute, right? Information is a component of all of this, right? Information does not equal knowledge. You can have all the information in the world and be the least knowledgeable person under the sun, right? So knowledge really is the substance, and knowledge is the story. So Aaron Simpson's really big about talking about, give me a hummable tune. Give me something to leave with. Tell me what to think about. Make sure I know and I get the big idea, the context, the so what. That is what I want my students to understand. Everything has a story, and the foundation of those stories is information. So they have to have the information. I'm not saying they don't need to have the information. It's just not enough, right? So when I want them to gain knowledge, they need to know what it is. Knowledge is a function of information, discomfort, curiosity, and motivation, right? And we just talked, Steve just talked about this. You want a safe space, right? But a safe space doesn't equal a comfortable space, right? Those two things are very, very different. So similar to, I'm gonna be like a little geeky in a different way, not y'all's way, but in a different way, right? So like we've heard of mitochondria, right? Have we all heard of that? Like 6th grade science class, right? It's the powerhouse of the cells, that's all we remember, because that's all I remember, right? It's kind of like we all know Roy G. Biv, and we're like, what is that again? Or kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Have no idea what those are, but I cannot forget them to save my life. I'm taking my comprehensive exams thinking, what do I know? That literally came to my mind. Has nothing to do with what I work on, but that literally came to my mind. Okay, so information is the powerhouse of knowledge. So much like mitochondria enable the body to create energy, information enables knowledge creation, right? So, but you don't do that alone. You need these other things. It's the interaction of information, discomfort, curiosity, and motivation, right? So how do I get my students to knowledge? Like, how do I get them there? Because they don't want to go. Because remember, they just want the information. Can I get the prompt? Can I get it ahead of time? Is that okay? I just want to know the question I have to answer. That's what they care about walking in the door. You call a function, right? You see the black box thing, you guys, for some of you who do developing and programming, are those the same thing, actually? Like, are those synonymous? Like, I don't know. Some people are like, oh, I'm a developer. Some people are like, oh, I'm a programmer. And what they're describing to me are the same things. So I'm not sure if they're synonymous. That's how I'm using them. I apologize. No disrespect to your community intended. I just don't know. I am ignorant about these things. So I have to give them the information, and then within that, I have to set an environment in the classroom in which discomfort, curiosity, and motivation lead them to knowledge, right? So, motivation. What do they care about? Their grades, right? So that's going to motivate them to do anything. So motivation for them isn't necessarily the action. I just have to put a foot in their ass to get them there, right? They're like, yeah, you don't want to speak in class? Participation is 30% of your grade. You're going to fail, right? That oral final that you have, I know that was mean, right? You have to sit down and talk to me about something I'm writing a dissertation on, and they're just like, oh, I don't want to talk to you. I was like, but you spend a lot of time talking to me. But in a final, but they rocked it out. They did great. But it was 30% of their grade. So if you don't do well, you're going to fail. So, and so then we talk about the safe spaces. I'm going to make you uncomfortable, right? So when one of my students we're talking about war crimes, and he says, he exceptionalizes America's behavior, the United States. And so I saw the look on her face, like coming a mile away. And so the minute he said it, because I could tell where he was going, and I was just going to let him get there, I just stood back and let them adjudicate that among themselves. I moderated it, but they've got to learn how to do that. And in school, the same thing that the student at Tufts gets caught by Tufts police and gets taken to their dorm room for, the dude in Winter Hills in front of a judge that Monday, right? So that is the safest space possible. School will protect you. This school will protect its brand. And that just means you getting put in the back of a TUPD car and taken to your dorm, right? You don't have to see a judge. I mean, there are limits to that, though. I try and tell them there are limits, right? And so curiosity, a lot of that comes from me, because they're looking at me and they're saying, hey, who's this girl? Because, I have all the security bros. I study war and violence. So they're like, what does she know about this? And I can see them coming a mile away. Oh, she's never, she's a civilian, she's a woman, she went to these fancy schools, what does she know? I was like, okay, I got something for you, right? So, but that curiosity gets them in the room, and then I can kind of break that down, right? So that's what's important. But that output, you get the input of information, all the function stuff's happening with all that thing, they're just, losing their minds for like the 13 weeks of the class, and then the output is knowledge. And that's why that oral final, I can sit there and look at them and have a conversation and realize, okay, this may not be your strongest point, so let's kind of take this conversation in this direction just slightly. And then they get it, and they show me everything they know. They understand context. They understand contingency. but it may not be the same way that a static question would work for them, right? So let's think about knowledge and practice. Does anybody know what these are? What photos these are from in history?
Second one's the armistice, right?
Yeah. And the first is the Peace of Westphalia, right? So my students can know, oh, Peace of Westphalia, that happened in 1648. I don't care when it happened. I don't. Like, I really don't. Yes, we need to make sure you know when it happened and things like that, but I want you to know that what happened there set up the idea for sovereignty in the nation-state system that we have today. So in 1648, to end the 30 Years' War, that set up the nation-state system we have today, right? This is the stuff that I geek out about. You know, you guys have your own little geek stuff, but this is what I care about, all right? And then here, this is the Treaty of Versailles in the Hall of Mirrors. How many of you have been to Versailles? Yeah, still looks the same. I mean, old, big, beautiful, like almost garish in many respects. Looks like a lot of Saddam Hussein's castles, like, and that he had in palaces in Iraq where you're like, take it down and it's like, ooh, what's underlying that is not good. They're built a little better than his were, but that being said, this marked the end of World War I, right? They know that. So they know on 28 June 1919, World War I officially ended because of this. But then when you ask them, well, what did that mean? What did that mean? Why is that so important? This is what pissed Germany the hell off, right? And I'm not saying that's causal. It did not cause World War II, but it is highly correlated with how Germany behaved, right? Wouldn't you be pissed if you had to take responsibility entirely for World War I, which they didn't think they were going to do walking in the door, right? They didn't think that was going to happen. They had to pay reparations that were so high that the last payment was in 2010, right? That is when they finished paying, right? And they lost territory. Their military had to be downsized, all these things. So when you're walking at those years between that interwar period, all you're doing is fomenting anger. That happened here. That's what I want them to know. That date that I can just prattle off the top of my head, on an exam, if they never gave me that date, I wouldn't care, but if they could tell me everything I just told you and give me that argument, I have given them knowledge, and that's what matters. If they leave my classroom and they're like, I just have so many questions, because they're very dramatic, like very dramatic. Oh my gosh, I just don't know, right? It's like great, it's wonderful. Right, I love them. Like, they're comedy for free. Like, if you can't do anything, teach. Like, literally, like, teach, because they are wonderful. And the things that they get in these existential crises over, you're like, you have to take them seriously, but you just know you're gonna be okay. Like, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. So those are the things that when you start talking about putting knowledge into practice, it's not those dates, it's not what these are, it's what they meant. It's the context, the contingency, how that all went together. That matters. But then, what about me? What do I do? 2 years ago, you could not have told me that my story, which is my dissertation, would run through Tufts lacrosse. Right? Sorry. But you knew it was coming, right? Right? I know, right? These are 4 of my students. I, for some reason, picked up Tufts lacrosse players as students, like left and right, as a teaching assistant and as a instructor of record. Here's what's interesting. I didn't favor them. I'm kind of not nice to my students. I'm really hard on them. When I see them walking towards me on campus, I'll be like, what do you want? They're like, nothing, Meg, I just want to say hi. I was like, no, you want something. You have a look in your eye. Like, I just want to, okay, I just need a recommendation. Like, it always comes to that. You're like, I can see this in your eye, right? So one thing I want you to note about this photo, have you ever seen a photo of a black woman with 4 white men and she has the least interesting hair? Like, honestly, I looked at this photo and the first thing I noticed was like, Johnny, his T's to Jesus hair over here. Like, it's like a bouffant from How many of you have seen Steel Magnolias? Like, this is something that would happen in Trudy's shop, right? Danny, who's to my right, he's covering up his mullet, right? He is now the assistant coach of Tufts lacrosse. Henry just has this very stylish, like I'm very cool, I'm from California right? And then Stuart at the end, you're going to see Stuart in just a minute, because that smirk, when that walked into my classroom, I was like, ooh, we're going to have problems, right? But, these four invited me to come watch them play by saying, you'll love how we play, Meg. We beat the hell out of people. I didn't know what that meant about me or them, because I'd never seen a lacrosse, I'd never seen a lacrosse game live. And when I tell people, like, I've become a lacrosse fan, they're like, Jim Brown was a lacrosse player. I'm like, thanks, got that. I was like the one black person they know who plays lacrosse. How old is Jim Brown? He played at Syracuse, so it's been a while, right? So they invited me to come watch them play. I, of course, showed up with a tablet, thinking, oh, when they huddle, I can get some work done. They don't do that. I didn't know, so I went and watched what began my history of watching white-on-white crime happen like 2 times a week every spring, right? So, I needed, but for my own research, I realized I needed help, right? So I had to assemble my squad. Remember Stuart, right, and the smirk? This is actually a smile for him. We look like right here looks like a poster for orthodontia more than anything. So here you have Stuart to the right and Matthew to the left. I will say, I'm not saying I am a causal mechanism, but it's highly correlated with me being one of my research assistants and being a captain of the Tufts lacrosse team. Because Stuart was one last year and Matthew's one this upcoming season. So this is what you want. It's a good thing to start with. So Stuart was the one he is half Mexican. I know, right? Doesn't look it, but his name's Stuart Stockdale to make it better. But he speaks Spanish, and one of my case studies is El Salvador's Civil War. And so he was doing qualitative stuff. Matthew was the one who was teaching me Python. We're going to get to that horror, because this is really a story about the teacher becoming a student with Matthew and how ugly that was. Let's first start with Stuart. This is a story of 4 smirks. Right? like everyone. It's so it's 1 second from your left. It's his senior one, and so I was like, Stuart, buddy, come on, you can do it. Like, just smile like a normal human being. You can do it. And he said this was his best attempt. I love him, but I just had to say this. And if anybody's seen Dead Poets Society and remembers Knox Overstreet, this is kind of who Stuart reminds me of. So, but then you have Matthew. Yeah, I went to Matthew and was like, hey, I want to learn Python, I knew my personality wasn't for everyone, so I thought he could handle me, but I wasn't sure. So we had our initial session, and he's like, oh, I have this work plan. I was like, you mean a syllabus? And I looked through it, and it seemed really detailed, because I was like, I just want to know how to do this for the stuff that I do. I don't need to know all that stuff, which is what social scientists tend to do, a lot of us. Like, you probably know this with R. Hadley. It's like, I know how to do these 4 things, and if something's wrong, I'm screwed because I don't know what underlies that, right? This is political science at its finest, and IR. And this kid, 20 years old at the time, looked at me in the eye and said, you might want to find someone else because you need to know the basics of coding. Yeah, that's not how people respond to me usually, and not a 20-year-old dude, like, right? And he looks like a scruffy extra from Dead Poet Society, but so in that moment, though, I realized I'd made the right choice. I needed somebody who would stand up to me, because I need strong leadership, let's just be honest. I know this, other people know this, right? So then I started to learn to code. So we come back to the black box, right? Sort of situation. This was like the first couple of weeks, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. That could be written here as well, right? And so we met in the same room, and they should name this for us. I call it Hell in a Cell. This was a place of precision, of right and wrong, of no random extra spaces. I'm a social scientist, right? I don't live in a binary world. I live in a world of alternative explanations, of different definitions, things like that. That doesn't work in y'all's world for the most part. Like, I never knew a space at the end of a sentence would cause me hours of agony. Like, it was so painful, right? Like, there are no rights and wrong in my world. They're just strong and weak arguments, right? Apparently not. It's not how y'all get down, right? So I will say this, there were it was hard. It was humbling. And so I needed some humility and grace because I am a horrible student. I don't do my homework. I make excuses. And I've tried every tactic possible in work avoidance. I whine, I complain. Y'all, one day I literally did the fake cry thing. And he looked at me, like, dead in the eye yet again, because he has no problem doing that, and said, "When you're done, I'll be over here." But much like trying to fold the fitted sheet, I get frustrated, I get disappointed, I get angry, and we just keep going, right? Because I'm trying to find knowledge, doing the best I can. And sometimes I suck at it. The only thing I won't do is I won't lie to him, but I'll do everything between there, up to that point. But I have strong leadership. I'm really fortunate, right? And so he understands me very well, right? This is what I needed. Like, I didn't think I needed it, but this is what I needed. I needed my own personal hype crew. I needed my teacher, right? I needed him to help me get to knowledge. And this is something, like, that means the world to me. Out of a now 21-year-old, I'll give him his year, right? He's about to turn 22. This is what I needed. And that might sound really weird for somebody who's 40 years old and, but I'm learning. It's a process. I'm learning knowledge. And so for him, this is what matters. And I worry at times that I push him too much and he's gonna quit, which is like my biggest thing, because I was like, how can I say a 21-year-old quit on me? Like, that would be, like, from something I did, because it would be something I did. Like, it really would. But he believes in me more than I believe in myself, I'll say that, to learn this stuff, to be able to do my quant research. And so I worry that I push him too far, but let's see this will work. Will it work? Yeah, it's just gonna be a little slow. I was at this game and saw this, and it's not showing up. Let me do this. Oh, it's not showing up. I feel bad because I had something really special for you. Let's see if we can actually. No. I mean, we do. Here's what's interesting. I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in rural Kansas, and I grew up in a place where you never show up without a gift for the host. You never show up without a gift for the host. So let me see if I can get this to actually work. Is Rachel? What'd you say? Okay, hold on just a second. I'm going to end the show, but I'll see if I can pull this up. Rachel, you're around, because I think this is just a really special moment. Does anybody want to come up in here and help me with this? Because this, I mean, I think it's really important that you see this. Yeah, I just need to show this, and it's on a Safari somewhere down here. Yeah. So, can we make this as large as possible? So,
yeah. Wait, oh, then they're gonna make it big.
Like,
Where's the big? Where's the big button?
I mean, so this is what should not happen is a goalie be able to take a ball. I don't know much about lacrosse, right? But this I do know is that a goalie should not be able to make a save and then go on to the end of the other side in a NESCAC championship game. In the last quarter, when you are down by 1, to tie the score, your goalie should not become a shooter. And this is one of my favorite students in the world, Mason Pollock. And he was able to do this against your dear alma mater. And so, this is my gift to you. Thank you. Thank you all so very much.